The plush cream carpet pressed against Naomi's cheek as she squeezed herself further under the hotel bed. Her wedding dress, a gorgeous ivory mermaid gown that had taken 6 months to custom design, bunched awkwardly around her hips. A nervous giggle threatened to escape her lips as she imagined Derek's face when she jumped out to surprise him. It had seemed like such a romantic idea 20 minutes ago. The wedding ceremony was scheduled to start in 2 hours. Derek had texted that he was coming up to the honeymoon suite to grab his cufflinks. Naomi, already dressed and waiting in the bridal suite down the hall, had convinced her bridesmaids to let her sneak away for just a few minutes. She wanted to see his face light up when he saw her in the dress. She wanted one private moment before they stood in front of 300 guests and promised forever. The electronic lock beeped. Naomi's heart raced with excitement. The door opened. "Finally, we have a few minutes alone." That was Derek's voice, but it sounded different. Lower. Intimate in a way that made her stomach clench. "I can't believe you're actually going through with this." A woman's voice. Not one of Naomi's bridesmaids. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. "Keep your voice down, Vanessa." Derek's footsteps moved across the room toward the bed. Naomi's pulse thundered in her ears. She pressed herself flatter against the floor, her elaborate updo scraping against the bed frame. "Why should I keep my voice down? In 2 hours, you'll be married to that naive little princess, and I'm supposed to just smile and watch." Vanessa's voice dripped with bitterness. Naomi's mind struggled to process what she was hearing. Vanessa. Derek's business partner. The woman he'd introduced Naomi to dozens of times over the past year. The woman who'd smiled at her across dinner tables and asked about wedding plans. "You knew the deal from the beginning." Derek's voice was cold, businesslike. Naomi had never heard him speak this way. "Marrying Naomi gets me access to the Thompson construction empire. Her father already promised me a VP position. Once I'm inside, once I have control of the accounts I need, we can be together openly." The floor seemed to tilt beneath Naomi. She bit down on her fist to keep from making a sound. "How long is this little charade supposed to last?" Vanessa asked. "A year? 2. However long it takes to transfer everything we need to the offshore accounts. Her family is worth $40 million, Vanessa. 40 million. Once we have enough secured, I'll divorce her. Claim she changed after marriage, whatever. Her family might be upset, but they can't take back what I've already moved." Naomi heard movement. Through the gap between the bed skirt and the floor, she could see Derek's Italian leather shoes, the ones she'd bought him as a wedding gift last month, stepping closer to where she imagined Vanessa stood. "I just hate watching you pretend to love her," Vanessa said, her voice softer now. Derek laughed. The sound made Naomi's skin crawl. "Love her? Naomi is a means to an end. She's sweet, sure. Pretty enough. But she's so trusting it's almost pathetic. She believes every word I say. Do you know she actually thinks I'm building a tech startup with my trust fund? She has no idea that money went straight into our accounts in the Caymans. What about tonight?" Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper. "The wedding night? I'll do what I have to do. Close my eyes and think of you." Derek's voice was closer now, intimate. "But this, right here, right now, this is real. You're real. Everything with Naomi is just business." Naomi heard the sound of kissing. Her stomach lurched. She tasted bile at the back of her throat. The diamond engagement ring on her finger, 2 carats, princess cut, the ring Derek had presented to her on bended knee 6 months ago at her favorite restaurant, suddenly felt like a shackle. "We should go," Vanessa said after a moment. "Someone might come looking." "Let them look. In a few hours I'll legally own half of everything Naomi has. Her trust fund, her stake in the company, all of it becomes community property. And she'll never suspect a thing because she's too busy playing the blushing bride." Their footsteps moved toward the door. Naomi held her breath, tears streaming silently down her face and onto the cream carpet. "I love you," Vanessa said at the door. "I love you too. This time next year we'll be on a beach somewhere, spending Thompson money, and Naomi will be a bad memory." The door opened and closed. Silence. Naomi lay under the bed, her wedding dress twisted around her, her carefully applied makeup running down her face in rivers of mascara and foundation. She tried to breathe, but each inhale felt like broken glass in her lungs. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. Every kiss, every whispered "I love you," every plan they'd made for their future together, all of it was a calculated fraud. Derek didn't love her. He'd never loved her. She was just a bank account with a heartbeat to him. How long had he been planning this? Had he targeted her from the beginning? She thought back to how they'd met, at a charity fundraiser her father had hosted. Derek had been charming, attentive, interested in her thoughts and dreams. He'd pursued her with flowers and thoughtful dates. He'd met her family and won them over with his ambition and business savvy. Her father had been so proud when Derek showed interest in the family company. It had all been an act, a performance. And she'd been the only one who didn't know she was watching a show. Naomi didn't know how long she lay there. It could have been minutes or hours. Finally, she heard her phone buzzing from where she'd left it on the nightstand. She couldn't reach it from under the bed. The buzzing stopped, then started again. Someone was trying to reach her. Probably her bridesmaids, wondering where she'd disappeared to. Slowly, Naomi began to pull herself out from under the bed. Her dress caught on the bed frame. She yanked it free, hearing fabric tear. She didn't care. This dress, this room, this entire day was built on lies. She stood on shaking legs and caught sight of herself in the floor-length mirror. Her face was a mess of smeared makeup. Her hair was half collapsed. Her dress had a tear along the hem. She looked like a woman who just had her heart ripped out. Because she had. But as Naomi stared at her reflection, something shifted inside her. The tears stopped. Her hands stopped shaking. A cold, clear fury began to replace the devastation. Derek thought she was naive. Pathetic. Too trusting. He was about to find out how wrong he was. Naomi picked up her phone. 15 missed calls. 12 text messages. All from her bridal party, her mother, her sister. All asking where she was. All excited for the ceremony to begin. She opened her messages and found her best friend Zara's number. Emergency. Come to honeymoon suite. Come alone. Don't tell anyone. She hit send. Then Naomi sat down on the edge of the bed where Derek had just stood with his mistress, where he'd just laughed about how pathetic she was, and she began to plan. If Derek wanted to play games, she'd show him how it was done. But she wouldn't be playing by his rules. She'd be writing her own. And he was going to lose everything. The knock on the door came exactly 4 minutes later. Zara had a key to the honeymoon suite, all the bridesmaids did. Still, she knocked first. Naomi? Zara's voice was worried. Girl, what's going on? Everyone is losing their minds downstairs. The ceremony starts in 90 minutes. Naomi opened the door. Zara took one look at her face and stepped inside quickly, shutting the door behind her. Oh my God. What happened? Zara reached for Naomi, but Naomi held up a hand. If you hug me right now, I'll fall apart, and I can't fall apart yet. Naomi's voice was steady, though it didn't feel like her own voice. It felt like someone else was speaking through her body. I need you to listen carefully and do exactly what I say. Zara's eyes widened, but she nodded. They'd been best friends since college. Zara knew when Naomi was serious. I'm not getting married today. What? Naomi? Listen. Please. Naomi walked to the window overlooking the hotel gardens where 300 chairs sat in perfect rows, where an arch wrapped in white roses waited for a bride and groom who would never stand beneath it. Derek is cheating on me. With Vanessa. His business partner. That snake. Zara's hands clenched into fists. I knew something was off about him. I told you. You did. I should have listened. Naomi turned back to face her friend. But that's not even the worst part. They're scamming my family. Derek married me to get access to our company accounts. He's planning to steal from us and then divorce me. Zara's mouth fell open. How do you know this? I was hiding under the bed. I wanted to surprise him. Naomi gestured at her ruined dress. Instead, he came in with Vanessa. I heard everything. Every detail of their plan. Every lie he's told me. Everything. We need to tell your father. We need to call the police right now. No. Naomi's voice was sharp. Not yet. If we go to the police now with just what I overheard, it's my word against his. He'll deny everything. Vanessa will back him up. I need proof. Real evidence. Bank records, emails, recordings, something concrete. Zara studied her friend's face. You have a plan. The beginning of one. But first, I need you to help me cancel this wedding without causing a scene that will alert Derek something's wrong. How do we do that? Naomi walked to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror again. Her face was still a mess. She turned on the cold water and splashed it over her skin, washing away the tear-stained makeup. Tell everyone I got sick. Food poisoning. Something sudden and violent. Tell them I'm devastated, but there's no way I can stand up through a ceremony. Tell them we'll reschedule. Derek will want to come up here to see you. You'll stop him. Tell him I'm too sick, too embarrassed. Tell him I'm throwing up and don't want him to see me like this. Play on his ego. Tell him I don't want him to have to deal with this mess. Naomi dried her face with a towel. He'll believe it because he thinks I'm pathetic enough to be embarrassed about being sick. Zara hesitated. And then what? He's still going to expect to marry you eventually. What's to stop him from trying again in a few weeks? By the time a few weeks pass, I'll have everything I need to destroy him. Naomi met her friend's eyes in the mirror. But I need time. I need him to think everything is fine, that I still love him, that I still trust him. Can you do this for me? Zara pulled out her phone. I can do this. But Naomi, where are you going to go? You can't stay here. I'm going to my apartment. The one I kept when we moved in together. Derek doesn't have a key. Naomi had almost given up that apartment, the cozy one-bedroom in the city that had been her first place after college. Derek had suggested it didn't make financial sense to keep it. Now she was grateful she'd resisted. I'm going to tell everyone I need to be alone to recover from the embarrassment. You'll be the only person who knows where I really am. What about your family? That was the hard part. Naomi loved her family fiercely. Her father, Robert Thompson, had built Thompson Construction from nothing into one of the most successful firms in the state. Her mother, Patricia, was the heart of their family. Her younger brother, Isaiah, looked up to her. The thought of Derek stealing from them made her blood boil. I can't tell them yet. Dad will confront Derek immediately. He'll want to handle it his way. Naomi knew her father. He was protective and quick to anger when it came to his family. If Derek knows we're onto him, he'll run or destroy evidence. I need to handle this carefully. Legally. I need to build a case so airtight that he can't slip away. Zara nodded slowly. Okay, I trust you. But promise me you won't do this alone. Promise me you'll let me help. I promise. Naomi pulled Zara into a quick hug, then stepped back before the emotions could overwhelm her again. Now go. Tell everyone I'm sick. Make it dramatic. Cry if you have to. And make sure Derek believes it. What are you going to do? Naomi looked at the wedding dress crumpled on the floor, at the veil she'd worn for exactly 30 minutes before her world imploded. I'm going to change out of this dress, pack a bag and disappear for a while. And then I'm going to figure out exactly how to take Derek apart piece by piece. After Zara left, Naomi moved quickly. She stripped off the wedding dress and left it in a heap. She found the jeans and sweater she'd worn to the hotel that morning and pulled them on. Her hands were steady now. The crying was done. She felt cold inside, but it was a useful cold. A focused cold. She packed a small bag with essentials from the honeymoon suite, clothes, toiletries, her laptop. She grabbed her purse and checked the contents. Credit cards, ID, phone. Everything she needed. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from her mother, her bridesmaids, even Derek. She ignored all of them except one, a text from Zara. Everyone believes the food poisoning story. Derek is concerned, but I convinced him to give you space. Your mom wants to come up, but I told her you specifically asked not to be disturbed. You have a window. Go now. Naomi took the service elevator down to the parking garage. She'd left her car there that morning, never imagining she'd be sneaking out of her own wedding. The irony wasn't lost on her. As she drove through the city toward her apartment, her phone rang. Derek. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again. She declined the call and sent a text instead. Feeling awful. Can't talk. Need to rest. So sorry about today. Love you. The words tasted like poison, but she typed them anyway. Let him think everything was fine. Let him think she was still the naive, trusting Naomi he thought he'd manipulated so perfectly. He had no idea what was coming. Her apartment looked exactly as she'd left it a month ago, a little dusty but familiar and safe. She locked the door behind her, dropped her bag, and finally allowed herself to feel the full weight of what had happened. She'd come within 2 hours of marrying a man who saw her as nothing more than a bank account. She trusted him completely. She'd introduced him to her family. She'd helped him build connections in her father's company. She'd given him access to parts of her life that he was now using to rob her family blind. The anger that surged through her was cleaner and sharper than anything she'd felt before. It wasn't the hot, messy anger of heartbreak. It was the cold, calculated anger of someone who'd been underestimated and was about to prove how badly her enemy had miscalculated. Naomi opened her laptop and created a new folder. She labeled it Evidence. Then she opened a document and began to write down everything she remembered from the conversation under the bed. Every detail. Every word. Every implication. Derek had mentioned offshore accounts. He'd mentioned transferring money. He'd mentioned Vanessa as his partner in crime. He'd mentioned a timeline. Naomi pulled up her online banking. She and Derek had opened a joint account 6 months ago for wedding expenses. She checked the balance. $20,000, her contribution, was still there. But there were transactions she didn't recognize. Transfers out to accounts she didn't know. She took screenshots of everything. Next, she searched her email for any messages from Derek that mentioned money, business deals, or Vanessa. She found dozens. She saved them all to a separate folder. Her phone buzzed again. Another call from Derek. Another text asking if she was okay. Still sick. Sleeping. We'll call tomorrow. She turned off her phone. Then Naomi did something she'd never done before in her life. She searched online for private investigators in the city. She needed someone who could dig into Derek's finances, who could follow him and Vanessa, who could build the kind of case that would stand up in court. She found a firm with excellent reviews, Mitchell Investigations. She sent them an email outlining the basics of her situation and requesting an urgent consultation. The reply came back within an hour. Can meet tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Our office. Bring any documentation you have. Naomi confirmed the appointment. As night fell over the city, she sat in her apartment and made a list. She needed legal help. Financial experts. Maybe a forensic accountant. She needed to understand exactly how much Derek had stolen or planned to steal. She needed to know how deep this went. But most importantly, she needed to make sure that when she was ready to strike, the blow would be devastating and final. Derek wouldn't just lose his scheme. He'd lose everything. She thought about the man she'd thought she was going to marry. The man who'd held her hand and promised to love her forever. The man who'd met her family and smiled at her father while planning to rob him. The man who'd kissed her goodnight and then called his mistress. That man didn't exist. He'd never existed. The real Derek was a criminal and a liar. And Naomi was going to make sure everyone knew it. She opened a new document and titled it Timeline. She began mapping out everything she knew about Derek's movements over the past year. When he'd met Vanessa. When their business partnership had started. When he'd proposed to Naomi. When he'd asked to be introduced to her father's company. It all lined up perfectly. Every step had been calculated. Every move had been part of the plan. Well, Derek had made one critical miscalculation. He'd assumed Naomi would never find out. He'd assumed she was too trusting, too naive, too pathetic to see through him. He'd assumed wrong. The offices of Mitchell Investigations occupied the 5th floor of a sleek building in the financial district. Naomi arrived at 8:50 a.m., dressed in a navy suit, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked professional and composed. Inside, she was still processing the earthquake that had destroyed her life 48 hours ago. The receptionist led her to a conference room where a woman in her 50s sat reviewing documents. She stood when Naomi entered. "Miss Thompson? I'm Caroline Mitchell." The woman's handshake was firm, her gaze direct. "Please sit down." Naomi sat and placed a folder on the table between them. "Thank you for seeing me on short notice. Your email was compelling. Tell me everything from the beginning." So Naomi did. She explained about hiding under the bed, about overhearing Derek and Vanessa, about the plan to steal from her family's company. She showed Caroline the screenshots of suspicious transactions, the emails, the timeline she'd constructed. Caroline listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. When Naomi finished, the investigator sat back and studied her. "You're handling this remarkably well," Caroline said. "Most people in your position would be falling apart." "I did that already. Now I need justice." Naomi kept her voice steady. "Can you help me?" "I can. But I need to be honest with you about what this will involve." Caroline flipped through her notes. "Financial fraud investigations are complex. If Derek has been moving money through offshore accounts, we'll need to track those transfers. That requires forensic accounting, possibly international cooperation, definitely legal warrants. I have resources. My family has resources. Whatever it takes. There's another issue. Right now you're not married to Derek. That was 2 days ago. But you were engaged. Did you share any financial information with him? Bank accounts, passwords, access to family accounts?" Naomi's stomach dropped. "He has access to our joint account. And I introduced him to my father's CFO 6 months ago. They've been working together on a potential expansion project." Caroline's expression darkened. "Then he may have already started moving money. We need to act fast." She picked up her phone. "I'm calling him my forensic accountant. Her name is Rebecca Torres, and she specializes in tracking hidden assets. We need to know exactly what Derek has accessed and where he's put it." Within an hour, Naomi was sitting across from both Caroline and Rebecca. a sharp woman in her 30s who looked at numbers the way detectives looked at crime scenes. "I need access to your family's business accounts," Rebecca said bluntly. "Or at least your father's permission to request records from the bank." "I can't tell my father yet." Naomi had been dreading this moment. "He'll go nuclear. He'll confront Derek and Derek will run. Then we do this the hard way." Rebecca opened her laptop. "I'll start by examining the public records. Business filings, property records, any financial documents that are accessible. It won't give us everything, but it'll show us patterns. If Derek has been setting up shell companies or transferring assets, there will be a trail." Over the next week, Naomi lived in a strange limbo. To the outside world, she was a heartbroken bride recovering from a humiliating canceled wedding. She told her family she needed space and time to process. Her mother came by once, bringing soup and sympathy. Her father called daily, offering to have a talk with Derek. She deflected them all. To Derek, she was still his devoted fiancée, just traumatized by the wedding disaster. They texted every day. He was all concern and sweetness, suggesting they reschedule once she felt better. She played along, her stomach turning with each loving message she forced herself to send back. But in reality, Naomi spent every day at Mitchell Investigations, watching as Caroline and Rebecca pieced together Derek's empire of lies. The picture that emerged was worse than she'd imagined. "He's been planning this for at least 18 months, Rebecca said on day 5, pointing at a complex flowchart she'd created on the whiteboard. "Long before he even met you. He set up 3 shell companies in Delaware and 1 in the Cayman Islands. All of them list Vanessa Chin as co-owner." Chin. Naomi frowned. "Vanessa's last name is Martinez. That's her married name. She divorced 2 years ago but still uses Martinez professionally. Her legal name is Vanessa Chin." Rebecca pulled up a document. "And get this, Derek and Vanessa have been business partners for 3 years. They ran a similar scam in California before Derek moved here." Naomi's blood ran cold. "They've done this before?" "Twice that I can find. Small-scale operations both times. They'd romance someone with family money, gain access to accounts, siphon off what they could, and disappear before anyone caught on. You were supposed to be their big score." Caroline added, "I've been following Derek for the past week. He's still meeting with Vanessa regularly. They're careful but not careful enough. I have photos, timestamps, recordings of their conversations in public places." She showed Naomi a series of photos. Derek and Vanessa having coffee at a cafe. Derek and Vanessa in a car together. Derek and Vanessa entering a hotel, not the one where the wedding had been planned. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore," Naomi said quietly. "They think I'm too stupid to notice." "That's their mistake." Caroline's smile was sharp. "Now, here's what I found in your family's company records. With your father's CFO's help, he's been cooperative once I explained I was working on your behalf. I accessed the accounts Derek had been given limited access to." She pulled up a spreadsheet. "In the past 6 months, Derek has made 11 unauthorized transfers totaling $1.2 million from the Thompson Construction operating account to one of his shell companies. He's been doing it in small increments, nothing large enough to trigger automatic flags, but it adds up." Naomi felt dizzy. $1.2 million. From her family's company. While Derek smiled at Sunday dinners and called her father sir. "There's more." Rebecca pulled up another document. "Remember that startup you told us about? The one Derek said he was investing his trust fund into? He said it was a tech company developing construction software. It doesn't exist. The company is registered, yes, but it has no employees, no office, no products. It's just a bank account. And you contributed $200,000 to it." Naomi had taken that money from her personal trust fund, money her grandmother had left her. She believed in Derek's vision. She'd wanted to support his dreams. "Can I get it back?" "Absolutely. Once we prove fraud." "Which brings me to the good news." Rebecca grinned. "Derek is sloppy. He's left a digital trail a mile wide. Emails between him and Vanessa discussing the transfers. Text messages about the Thompson job. Bank records showing money moving from your family's accounts to his shell companies to offshore accounts. He documented everything because he never thought anyone would look." "So we have enough for the police?" Caroline and Rebecca exchanged glances. "We have enough for the FBI," Caroline said. "This is interstate fraud, money laundering, and theft from a business. The amounts involved push this into federal territory. I have a contact, Special Agent Lisa Freeman, who specializes in financial crimes. With your permission, I'd like to bring her in. Naomi took a deep breath. This was real. This was happening. Derek was going to face actual consequences. Do it. 2 days later, Naomi sat in a federal building across from Special Agent Freeman, a woman with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Caroline and Rebecca flanked her. Miss Thompson, I've reviewed the evidence your investigative team has compiled. Agent Freeman's voice was professional but not unkind. What you've uncovered is substantial. If you're willing to cooperate fully, we can build a case that will not only recover your family's money but also put Derek Montgomery and Vanessa Chin in federal prison. What do you need from me? First, we need you to continue your relationship with Derek as if nothing is wrong. I know that's difficult. I can do it. Naomi's voice was hard. I've been doing it for 2 weeks. What else? We'll need to set up surveillance. We'll need you to wear a wire in some conversations with Derek. We need him to incriminate himself on record. The thought of being alone with Derek, of letting him touch her, kiss her, lie to her face while she recorded every word, made Naomi feel sick. But she nodded. When do we start? Tomorrow. We move fast from here. Derek doesn't know we're on to him, and we want to keep it that way until we have everything we need for an airtight case. Over the next week, Naomi became someone she didn't recognize. She met Derek for dinner and let him hold her hand while wearing a recording device tucked into her bra. She smiled and laughed at his jokes while the FBI listened to every word. She asked carefully scripted questions about his business that led him to talk about accounts and transfers. Derek, confident and unsuspecting, walked right into every trap. I'm thinking we should reschedule the wedding for next month, he said over pasta at an expensive restaurant. I've been talking to your dad's CFO again. There's a big project coming up, a commercial development downtown. If I'm officially family, he said he'd recommend me to lead the financial side. That's wonderful, Naomi said, her smile not reaching her eyes. You've worked so hard to build trust with my father's company. It's all about relationships in this business. Your dad likes me. His CFO trusts me. Once we're married, I'll have even more access. I can really help take Thompson Construction to the next level. Every word was recorded. Every lie was captured. The hardest part was when Derek tried to be intimate. He'd come to her apartment. He didn't know she knew he was also still seeing Vanessa, and he'd try to kiss her, touch her, take her to bed. I'm still not feeling well, she'd say, pulling away. The stress of the canceled wedding, the embarrassment. I just need a little more time. He'd sigh, disappointed, but he'd back off. After all, he didn't actually want her. He just needed her compliant and trusting. On the 15th day of the investigation, Agent Freeman called Naomi into her office. We have everything we need, she said. Bank records, wire transfers, recorded conversations, emails, witness statements. Derek and Vanessa are going down, and they're going down hard. When? Tomorrow. We'll execute warrants simultaneously at Derek's office and Vanessa's apartment. We'll freeze all the accounts we've identified. And we'll arrest them both on multiple counts of fraud, theft, and money laundering. Naomi felt a rush of fierce satisfaction. I want to be there. You can't be present for the arrest. But I can make sure you're nearby. You've earned that much. That night, Naomi couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, thinking about the man who'd almost destroyed her life, who'd stolen from her family, who'd looked her in the eyes and lied with every breath. Tomorrow he'd finally face justice. She thought about calling her family, preparing them for what was about to happen. But Agent Freeman had advised against it. The fewer people who knew, the less chance of Derek catching wind and running. So Naomi waited alone in her apartment, watching the clock, counting down the hours until the man who'd betrayed her would lose everything. Just like he'd planned to take everything from her. Chapter 4, Legal Arsenal. The sun wasn't even fully up when Agent Freeman called. We're moving in 1 hour. Thought you'd want to know. Naomi was already dressed. She'd been dressed since 5 a.m., too wired to sleep, too focused on this moment to do anything but pace her apartment. Where should I be? There's a coffee shop across from Derek's office building. Be there at 8. You won't see anything dramatic, but you'll know when it happens. At 7:45, Naomi sat in a booth by the window of Java Dreams, a paper cup of coffee cooling in front of her. She had a clear view of the glass tower where Derek's supposed tech company maintained an office. The office that was really just a front for laundering stolen money. Her phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Good morning, beautiful. Coffee meeting this morning, but thinking about you. Dinner tonight? We should talk about setting a new date. Naomi's hands tightened around her phone. Even now, hours before his arrest, he was still playing the game. Still lying. still assuming she was too foolish to see through him. She didn't reply. At 8:03, 3 black SUVs pulled up in front of Derek's building. Naomi sat forward. 8 agents and FBI windbreakers climbed out. They moved with precision, entering the building in formation. Naomi's phone rang. Agent Freeman. It's happening. We're at Vanessa's apartment simultaneously. Both targets are in custody within the next 5 minutes. Naomi watched the building entrance. She imagined Derek at his desk, probably reviewing the accounts he'd stolen from, maybe texting Vanessa about their plans. She imagined the moment the agents walked in. The moment he realized his perfect scheme had fallen apart. We have him. Agent Freeman's voice came through the phone. Derek Montgomery is in custody. Vanessa Chin is also in custody. It's over, Naomi. But it wasn't over. Not completely. Because while Derek and Vanessa were being processed and charged, Naomi had one more person to face. Her father. She drove to her parents' house in the suburbs. It was 8:45 in the morning on a Thursday. Her father would be in his home office, reviewing project proposals before heading to the Thompson Construction headquarters. Her mother answered the door, surprise and worry crossing her face. Naomi. Sweetheart, what are you doing here? Are you okay? I need to talk to Dad. Both of you. It's important. 5 minutes later, Naomi sat across from her parents in their living room. Her father, Robert Thompson, was a large man with silver hair and sharp eyes. He'd built his company from the ground up through hard work and smart decisions. Her mother, Patricia, was elegant and intelligent, the steady force behind their family. What's wrong? Robert asked. Is this about Derek? About the wedding? Derek was arrested by the FBI this morning, Naomi said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Along with his business partner, Vanessa. They've been stealing from Thompson Construction for the past 6 months. They stole $1.2 million from the operating accounts. The silence that followed was deafening. Then her father exploded. What? Naomi spent the next hour explaining everything. The conversation under the bed. The investigation. The evidence. The FBI operation. Her parents listened in stunned silence, their expressions shifting from shock to fury to horror. Why didn't you tell us? Her mother finally asked. You've been dealing with this alone for 2 weeks? I had to. If Derek suspected we knew, he would have run. We needed time to build the case. Naomi met her father's eyes. I'm sorry I didn't come to you sooner. But I needed to handle this the right way. Her father stood and paced to the window. $1.2 million. That son of a... He bit off the curse. How did he access the accounts? Through the CFO. You introduced them. Derek gained his trust over months, presented himself as a financial expert interested in helping the company grow. The CFO gave him limited access to help with the downtown development project analysis. Derek used that access to make unauthorized transfers in amounts small enough not to trigger immediate red flags. Robert's face was red with anger. I brought that man into our company. I trusted him because you loved him. He's a professional con artist, Dad. He and Vanessa have done this before. They targeted me specifically because of our family business. None of this is your fault. The hell it isn't. I should have done a deeper background check. I should have questioned why some tech entrepreneur was so eager to work with a construction company. Patricia spoke up, her voice shaking slightly. What happens now? To Derek and Vanessa? They're facing federal charges. Multiple counts of fraud, theft, money laundering. Agent Freeman says they're looking at minimum 10 years in prison, possibly more. And we'll recover the money. Most of it is still in accounts we've identified. The FBI is freezing everything. And your money? Her mother asked gently. The $200,000 you gave Derek for his startup? That was fraud too. I'll get it back. Naomi felt the weight of the past weeks pressing down on her. Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry. I brought him into our lives. I believed his lies. I put our family and our company at risk. Her father turned from the window. His anger seemed to drain away, replaced by concern. He crossed the room and pulled Naomi into a tight hug. You have nothing to apologize for, he said firmly. That man is a criminal. He manipulated you. He manipulated all of us. But you're the one who caught him. You're the one who had the strength and the brains to take him down the right way. He pulled back and looked at her with pride. I taught you to be tough and you proved it. I'm proud of you. Naomi felt tears threatening for the first time since the investigation began. I just wanted justice. You got it. And now we make sure that justice sticks. Over the next few days, Naomi met with lawyers, both the FBI's prosecutors and her own family's legal team. The case against Derek and Vanessa was overwhelming. The prosecution had bank records, email evidence, wire recordings, witness testimony, and Derek's own words incriminating himself. Naomi's attorney, Margaret Rodriguez, was a powerhouse in her late 40s who specialized in fraud recovery. She sat with Naomi in her sleek downtown office and laid out the legal landscape. Derek and Vanessa will both be offered plea deals, Margaret explained. The FBI prefers that to trial. It's faster, cheaper, and guarantees convictions. They'll probably serve 5 to 8 years if they take the plea. And if they don't? Then we go to trial, which could take a year or more. But the evidence is so strong that their attorneys will almost certainly advise them to take the plea. Fighting this in court would only increase their sentences. What about our money? Margaret smiled. That's the good news. Asset forfeiture. Every account we've identified, every transfer Derek made, every shell company he created, all of it gets frozen and liquidated. Your family's $1.2 million will be recovered in full. Your personal $200,000 will be recovered. There will also be penalties and fines that Derek and Vanessa will have to pay, though they'll likely declare bankruptcy. I want him to lose everything, Naomi said quietly. The way he planned to take everything from me. He will. He'll lose his freedom, his assets, his reputation. He'll have a federal felony conviction on his record. When he gets out of prison, he'll be lucky to get a job doing anything that involves handling money. Margaret paused. Is that enough for you? Naomi thought about the man who'd held her hand and promised forever while planning to rob her family. The man who'd laughed about how pathetic and trusting she was. The man who'd kissed his mistress hours before he was supposed to marry Naomi. It's a start, she said. A week after Derek's arrest, Naomi attended his arraignment. She sat in the back of the courtroom, watching as he was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed. He looked smaller somehow, less confident. His eyes scanned the courtroom and landed on her. For a moment they just stared at each other. Naomi saw the moment Derek understood. The moment he realized she'd known. That she'd played him just as expertly as he'd tried to play her. His face went white, then red. Then he looked away. Vanessa was arraigned in the same session. She didn't look at Naomi at all. She kept her eyes down, her expensive lawyer whispering urgently in her ear. The judge set bail at $500,000 each. Neither Derek nor Vanessa could make it. They'd be held in federal custody until trial or until they accepted plea deals. As Naomi left the courthouse, a reporter approached her. Miss Thompson, how does it feel to know your fiancé defrauded your family? Naomi looked directly at the camera. Derek Montgomery is not my fiancé. He's a criminal who will be held accountable for his crimes. My family and I are grateful to the FBI for their thorough investigation, and we're focused on moving forward. She walked away before they could ask more questions. That night, alone in her apartment, Naomi allowed herself to feel the full scope of what had happened. Derek was in jail. The money would be recovered. Justice was being served. But she'd still lost something. She'd lost the future she'd imagined. She'd lost her trust in her own judgment. She'd lost the innocence that had let her believe in fairy tales. She looked at the engagement ring she'd finally taken off her finger. 2 carats, princess cut, purchased with money Derek had probably stolen. She'd give it back as part of the asset recovery. Let it be sold off to pay back what he owed. Naomi dropped the ring in a drawer and closed it. Then she opened her laptop and looked at the list she'd started weeks ago. The list of everything she wanted to accomplish. Now that Derek was facing justice, it was time to focus on the second part of her plan. Rebuilding her life. Proving to herself and everyone else that she was more than just a victim of Derek's scheme. She was a Thompson. She was smart, capable, and ready to show the world what she could do. Starting tomorrow, she was taking control of her future. Chapter 5. The Takedown. 3 months after Derek's arrest, Naomi sat in a conference room at FBI headquarters with Agent Freeman and her attorney, Margaret Rodriguez. Across the table sat Derek's lawyer, a tired-looking man named Harold Briggs. My client is willing to accept a plea agreement, Briggs said. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Derek had gone through 3 lawyers before this one. The first 2 had quit once they'd seen the evidence against him. Agent Freeman slid a document across the table. 7 years in federal prison, full restitution to the Thompson family and Naomi Thompson personally, forfeiture of all assets, and a permanent ban from working in any financial or fiduciary capacity. Those are the terms. Non-negotiable. Briggs reviewed the document. My client wants to make a statement. No. Naomi spoke for the first time. Everyone looked at her. I don't want to hear anything he has to say. Miss Thompson, as the primary victim, you're entitled to make a victim impact statement at sentencing, Briggs said carefully. My client simply wants to apologize? Explain? Justify? Naomi's voice was cold. I don't care. Tell your client to sign the plea agreement and accept the consequences of his actions. That's all I need from him. Briggs sighed. I'll convey your message. Vanessa's plea deal came through 2 days later. She'd struck her own agreement. 6 years in federal prison, full cooperation with the investigation and restitution. Her attorney had argued she'd been less involved than Derek, that he'd been the primary architect of the scheme. The FBI had agreed to the reduced sentence in exchange for her testimony against Derek and details about their previous cons. The sentencing hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Naomi spent those weeks preparing her victim impact statement. Margaret helped her draft it, refine it, make it powerful without being emotional. You want the judge to understand the full scope of harm, Margaret explained. Not just financial. The betrayal of trust. The manipulation. The way this has affected your family and your sense of security. But you also want to project strength. You're not broken. You're a survivor who's moving forward. The day of sentencing, the courtroom was packed. Naomi's family sat in the front row. The media filled the back rows. This case had drawn attention because of the amounts involved and the dramatic circumstances of how Derek was caught. Derek was brought in first. He wore a suit instead of the orange jumpsuit, but his wrists were still cuffed. He looked thinner than Naomi remembered. Older. The cocky confidence was gone. The judge, Honorable Catherine Morrison, was a stern woman in her 60s with a reputation for tough sentences in fraud cases. Mr. Montgomery, you've entered a guilty plea to multiple counts of wire fraud, theft, and money laundering. Before I pronounce sentence, the victim has requested to make a statement. Miss Thompson? Naomi stood. Her hands didn't shake as she walked to the podium. She'd rehearsed this 100 times. She looked at the judge, not at Derek. Your Honor, Derek Montgomery came into my life with a plan. Not a plan to love me or build a life with me, but a plan to use me as a gateway to steal from my family. He researched us. He targeted me specifically. He crafted a persona designed to gain my trust and my family's trust. Every word he said to me was calculated. Every gesture was part of the con. She took a breath. I believed I was engaged to a man who loved me. Instead, I was engaged to a criminal who saw me as a bank account. He had a mistress. He planned to drain my family's business. He stole money my father spent decades building. He took $200,000 from me personally, money my grandmother left me, money she saved her whole life. But the financial loss isn't even the worst part. He made me doubt myself. He made me question my judgment. He made me feel foolish for trusting him. He betrayed not just me, but my entire family who welcomed him with open arms. Naomi finally looked at Derek. He was staring at the table in front of him. I want this court to know that while Derek Montgomery tried to destroy me, he failed. I caught him. I built the case against him. I worked with the FBI to make sure he faced justice. And I'm rebuilding my life stronger than it was before. He didn't break me. He just made me tougher. She looked back at the judge. I ask this court to impose the maximum sentence allowed under the plea agreement. Derek Montgomery is a career criminal who will do this again if given the chance. He needs to be stopped. Thank you. The courtroom was silent as Naomi walked back to her seat. Her father reached over and squeezed her hand. Judge Morrison reviewed her notes. Mr. Montgomery, do you have anything to say before I pronounce sentence? Derek stood. His voice was quiet. I'm sorry. To Naomi and her family. I made terrible choices. I'm sorry. The judge's expression didn't change. Mr. Montgomery, I've reviewed the evidence in this case extensively. The scope of your criminal conduct is staggering. You orchestrated a sophisticated fraud scheme that spanned multiple states and involved international money laundering. You targeted Miss Thompson and her family with premeditation and calculation. You showed no remorse until you were caught. She put on her reading glasses. The plea agreement recommends 7 years. I'm inclined to accept that recommendation with the following modifications. You will serve the full 7 years with no possibility of early release. You will pay full restitution to the Thompson family and to Miss Thompson personally in the amount of $1,400,000. You will forfeit all assets currently frozen by the FBI. And you will be banned for life from working in any position involving financial management or fiduciary responsibility. Additionally, upon release, You will serve 3 years of supervised probation. You will be prohibited from engaging in any business partnerships or starting any companies during that probation period. Any violation of these terms will result in immediate reincarceration. She brought down her gavel. 7 years in federal prison. Bailiff, remand the defendant. Derek was led away. He didn't look at Naomi. She felt nothing watching him go. No satisfaction. No anger. Just a sense of completion. Vanessa's sentencing was shorter. She'd already cooperated, already provided testimony. The judge gave her 6 years with the same restitution requirements and restrictions. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Naomi had prepared a statement. Justice has been served today. Derek Montgomery and Vanessa Chen will spend years in federal prison for their crimes. My family has recovered our financial losses and we're focused on moving forward. I want to thank the FBI, particularly Agent Freeman, and my attorney Margaret Rodriguez for their dedication to this case. To anyone who's been the victim of fraud or manipulation, you're not alone. You're not foolish for trusting someone. The criminals who exploit that trust are the ones who should be ashamed. Thank you. She walked away from the cameras, her family surrounding her like a protective wall. That night, Naomi sat on her apartment balcony, looking out over the city. It had been 4 months since she'd hidden under that bed and heard the truth about Derek. 4 months since her world had exploded. She'd spent those months focused on justice, on the investigation, on making sure Derek paid for what he'd done. And he had paid. He'd lost everything, his freedom, his money, his reputation, his future. But Naomi realized she'd been so focused on taking Derek down that she hadn't thought about what came next. What did she want her life to look like now? She thought about the woman she'd been 4 months ago, naive, trusting, romantic. That woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, more cynical, more careful. But was that who she wanted to be? Naomi pulled out her phone and opened a note she'd written the day after the wedding was canceled. It was a list of dreams she'd had before Derek, dreams she'd pushed aside while planning a wedding and a future with him. Take over a division of Thompson Construction and prove I can run it successfully. Start a nonprofit helping women in business. Travel to places I've always wanted to see. Learn to trust again. Find love on my own terms. She read the list 3 times. Then she opened a new note and titled it, Action Plan. Tomorrow, she talked to her father about taking a real role in the company. Not a token position. A real leadership role where she could make a difference. But tonight, she'd allow herself to feel proud of what she'd accomplished. She'd taken down a criminal. She'd protected her family. She'd proven to herself that she was stronger than she'd ever known. Derek had tried to use her. Instead, she'd been the one to destroy him. That was justice. And it was only the beginning. Chapter 6, Rebuilding from Ashes. The Monday morning after Derek's sentencing, Naomi walked into Thompson Construction headquarters wearing a tailored charcoal suit and carrying a briefcase. She took the elevator to the executive floor where her father's corner office overlooked the city. Robert Thompson's assistant, Grace, smiled when she saw Naomi. Your father's expecting you. Go right in. Her father stood at his window, reviewing blueprints spread across a conference table. He looked up when Naomi entered. You're early, he said. I like that. We have a lot to discuss. Naomi set down her briefcase. I've been thinking about my future with this company. I've been thinking about it too. Her father gestured to a chair. They both sat. Before Derek, you worked in our marketing department. Good work from what I heard. But your heart wasn't in it. Naomi nodded. I was doing what I thought I should do. Safe work. Easy work. I didn't want anyone to think I was getting special treatment because I'm your daughter. And now I want to actually contribute. I want to lead. I want a division where I can make real decisions and prove what I can do. She met her father's eyes. I know I have to earn it. I know people will watch me twice as hard because of our last name. But I'm ready for that. Robert leaned back in his chair, studying his daughter. The Sustainable Building Materials division has been struggling for 2 years. We're losing money every quarter. I've been considering shutting it down entirely. Naomi's pulse quickened. What if I took it over? Turned it around? It would be a massive challenge. The division has poor leadership, low morale, and we're getting killed by competitors who've invested more in green technology. Most people think it's a lost cause. But you don't. Her father smiled slightly. I think sustainable building is the future. I think we got into it too late and half-heartedly. I think with the right leadership and real investment, that division could be profitable. He paused. I also think it would be a hell of a test for you. If you can turn around a failing division, no one will ever question whether you earned your place here. Give me 6 months, Naomi said. Give me a real budget, authority to make personnel changes, and access to the resources I need. If I can't show significant improvement in 6 months, I'll step down from the division and take whatever role you think I'm suited for. 6 months. Her father extended his hand. You've got a deal. But Naomi, this won't be easy. You'll be dealing with entrenched problems, resistant employees, and skeptical clients. People will be waiting for you to fail. Let them wait. Naomi shook his hand. I'm going to succeed. The Sustainable Materials Division was housed in a separate building across town from headquarters. When Naomi arrived the next morning for her first day as division head, she found a dispirited group of 30 employees working in a dingy office that smelled like old coffee and defeat. The former division head, a man named Gerald Patterson who'd been with the company for 20 years, met her in what was now her office. He didn't look happy. Your father said you'd be taking over, Gerald said stiffly. I've been reassigned to the commercial division. I appreciate you staying to brief me. Naomi kept her tone professional. Walk me through the current state of operations. Over the next hour, Gerald outlined a division in crisis. Their main product, recycled composite materials for construction, was more expensive than competitors' versions and not significantly better in quality. Their sales team was demoralized. Their research and development budget had been slashed. 3 major clients had switched to competitors in the past year alone. To be blunt, Miss Thompson, this division is dead weight, Gerald said. Your father should have shut it down a year ago. There's no saving it. After Gerald left, Naomi sat alone in her office and reviewed the files. Gerald was right about the problems. But he was wrong about the solution. The division wasn't dead. It was just being run wrong. Naomi spent her first week meeting individually with every employee. She listened to their frustrations, their ideas, their concerns. What she found was a team of talented people who'd been ignored and underutilized for years. The lead researcher, Dr. Simone Price, had a PhD in materials science and a folder full of innovations she'd proposed that had been rejected as too expensive or too risky. The sales director, Marcus, she stopped. Marcus was on the banned list. The sales director, James Chin, also banned. The sales director, Trevor Washington, was a veteran salesman who'd given up pitching their products because he was embarrassed by their quality. We're selling garbage and charging premium prices, Trevor told her bluntly in their meeting. I can't compete when our competitors have better products at lower prices. Give me something I can actually sell and I'll sell it. The production manager, Kenji Yamamoto, showed Naomi their factory floor. The equipment was outdated. The processes were inefficient. We could cut production costs by 30% with updated machinery, he said. But we've been asking for equipment upgrades for 3 years and keep getting told no. By Friday, Naomi had a clear picture. The division had good people and potential for innovation. What it lacked was investment and vision. She scheduled a meeting with her father and the CFO for Monday morning. She put together a presentation that would either save the division or end her leadership before it really began. Monday came. Naomi stood in the boardroom in front of her father, the CFO, and 3 other senior executives. She pulled up her first slide. The Sustainable Materials Division is failing because we've been approaching it wrong. We've been trying to compete on cost with inferior products. That's a losing strategy. She clicked to the next slide. Instead, we need to compete on innovation and quality. We need to become the premium brand in sustainable construction materials. She walked them through Dr. Price's research. New composite materials that were lighter, stronger, and more environmentally friendly than anything on the market. Revolutionary techniques for recycling construction waste into usable materials. This technology could position us as industry leaders, Naomi said. But it requires investment. I'm asking for $2 million over 6 months. $1 million for R&D and production equipment. $500,000 for a marketing campaign. $500,000 for hiring additional staff. The CFO frowned. That's a significant investment in a division that's been losing money. It's a significant investment in the future of this company, Naomi countered. Sustainable construction isn't a trend. It's becoming law in many cities. Building codes are requiring more recycled materials, lower carbon footprints, sustainable practices. Companies that can't offer quality green materials will lose contracts. Companies that can will dominate the market. Her father leaned forward. What's your projection for return on investment? Conservative projection. We break even in 8 months and turn a profit by month 12. Aggressive projection. We're profitable by month 6 and we've captured 15% of the sustainable materials market in this region within a year. And if you're wrong? Then you shut down the division and I accept that I failed. Naomi met his eyes. But I'm not wrong. I've done the research. I've talked to potential clients. The demand is there. We just need to give them a product worth buying. The executives exchanged looks. The CFO made notes. Her father sat back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Finally he spoke. You'll get your $2 million. But Naomi, if this doesn't work, it will work. Over the next 3 months, Naomi threw herself into transforming the division. She worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week. She approved Dr. Price's R&D projects. She authorized the purchase of new production equipment. She hired a marketing director with experience in green building products. She also made hard decisions. She let go of employees who weren't performing or who actively resisted the changes. She brought in new talent, young, hungry people who believed in the mission of sustainable construction. The existing employees who stayed rose to the challenge. Trevor's sales team started pitching their new products with enthusiasm. Kenji's production floor became more efficient with the new equipment. Dr. Price's team developed a composite material that was 20% lighter and 30% stronger than competitor versions. Naomi was exhausted. She went home each night to her apartment and collapsed into bed, only to wake up and do it all again. She had no social life, no dating life, no time for anything but work. But she could feel it happening. The division was transforming. The energy was different. People were excited again. 4 months after taking over, Naomi landed the division's first major contract, a municipal project to build 3 community centers using entirely sustainable materials. The contract was worth $3 million. Trevor brought her the signed agreement with a huge grin. We did it. We actually did it. You did it, Naomi corrected. You and the team. This is your win as much as mine. But that night, alone in her office after everyone else had gone home, Naomi allowed herself a moment of pure pride. She'd done this. She'd taken a failing division and made it viable. She'd proven to herself and everyone else that she was capable of more than they'd thought. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. Heard about the municipal contract. Well done. Proud of you. Naomi smiled. It was the first time in months she'd felt genuinely happy about something that had nothing to do with Derek or revenge or justice. This was about her. Her skills. Her vision. Her success. She was building something real. Something that was entirely hers. Chapter 7. New Beginnings. 6 months after taking over the Sustainable Materials Division, Naomi stood in a conference room presenting quarterly results to the board of directors. The numbers spoke for themselves. The division had gone from losing $500,000 a quarter to turning a $200,000 profit. We've secured 4 major contracts worth a combined $8 million, Naomi explained, clicking through slides showing their new client list. We've increased production efficiency by 40%. Our products are now competitively priced with superior quality metrics. And we've been approached by 3 Fortune 500 companies interested in partnering with us on large-scale sustainable construction projects. The board members asked questions about margins, about scalability, about long-term strategy. Naomi answered them all with confidence. She'd lived and breathed this division for half a year. She knew every detail. When the presentation ended, her father stood. The board would like to recognize Naomi Thompson for exceptional leadership. What she's accomplished with the Sustainable Materials Division in 6 months is remarkable. The board votes to approve her request for expansion funding and to make her position as division head permanent. The other board members applauded. Naomi felt a rush of satisfaction that had nothing to do with proving anyone wrong and everything to do with knowing she'd succeeded on her own merits. After the meeting, as she gathered her presentation materials, one of the board members approached her. Miss Thompson, I'm impressed with what you've accomplished. I'm on the board of another company that's looking for leadership talent. Would you be open to being contacted about opportunities? Naomi smiled. Thank you, but I'm committed to Thompson Construction. This is where I want to build my career. For the first time since Derek's betrayal, she felt like she'd found her place. 2 weeks later, Naomi was reviewing proposals for a new commercial project when her assistant knocked on her office door. There's an architect here to see you. Julian Crawford. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says he has a proposal you'll want to hear. Naomi checked her calendar. She had 20 minutes before her next meeting. Send him in. Julian Crawford was not what she expected. He was about her age with warm brown skin, close-cropped hair, and an easy smile. He wore jeans and a blazer and carried a portfolio under his arm. "Miss Thompson, thank you for seeing me without an appointment." He shook her hand with a firm grip. "I've been following what you've done with the Sustainable Materials Division. It's impressive work." "Thank you. What can I do for you, Mr. Crawford?" "Julian, please." He set his portfolio on her desk. "I'm an architect specializing in sustainable design. I've been working on a proposal for an eco-friendly mixed-use development, residential units, retail space, and community areas. The project requires innovative materials and construction methods. Your division's composites would be perfect." He opened the portfolio, revealing detailed architectural drawings and specifications. Naomi leaned forward to study them. The designs were beautiful, modern but warm, functional but artistic. More importantly, they were genuinely innovative in their approach to sustainable building. "This is ambitious," Naomi said, paging through the drawings. "Have you secured funding?" "I have investors ready to commit once I have the right construction partner. The project is valued at $12 million. If Thompson Construction is interested, I'd like to propose a partnership where your Sustainable Materials Division handles all the materials and coordinates with my architectural firm on the construction." Naomi looked up from the drawings. "Why Thompson? There are other construction companies with sustainable divisions." Julian met her eyes. "Because from what I can see, you're not just going through the motions on sustainability. You're actually innovating. Your composite materials are superior to anything else on the market. And frankly, I want to work with people who care about doing this right, not just people who want to check a green building box for publicity." There was passion in his voice that Naomi recognized. It was the same passion she felt about building something meaningful. "I'd need to review your full proposal, including financial projections and timeline," Naomi said. "And I'd need to meet with your investors. Of course, I can have everything sent over by tomorrow." Julian started to gather his portfolio, then paused. "Can I ask you something? Why sustainable materials? You could have taken over any division in your father's company. Why choose the hardest one?" Naomi considered the question. "Because I wanted to prove I could handle the hard things. And because I think it matters. Building sustainably isn't just good business, it's the right thing to do for the environment, for communities, for the future." Julian smiled. "That's exactly the answer I was hoping for. I think we're going to work well together, Miss Thompson." "Naomi. And I think you might be right." Over the next month, Naomi and Julian worked closely on refining the mixed-use development proposal. They met several times a week, reviewing designs, adjusting material specifications, coordinating timelines. Julian was professional but friendly, and Naomi found herself enjoying their working relationship. He was different from Derek in every way. Where Derek had been smooth and calculating, Julian was genuine and straightforward. Where Derek had flattered and manipulated, Julian challenged and collaborated. Where Derek had made Naomi feel like she needed to impress him, Julian treated her as an equal partner. "What do you think about adding solar panels to the roof design?" Julian asked during one of their meetings, sketching modifications on his tablet. "I know it increases upfront costs, but the long-term savings and environmental impact make it worthwhile." "I agree, but we need to make sure the investors see it that way." Naomi pulled up the financial projections. "If we can show them a 3-year payback period on the solar investment, they'll go for it." They worked through the numbers together, both of them leaning over her laptop, occasionally reaching for the same papers and laughing when their hands collided. It was easy, natural, comfortable in a way Naomi hadn't felt with anyone since before Derek. The investor meeting was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon. Naomi and Julian presented together, tag-teaming the pitch seamlessly. They showed architectural renderings, material specifications, financial projections, and sustainability metrics. The investors asked tough questions. Naomi and Julian answered them together, their collaboration smooth and professional. At the end of the meeting, the lead investor stood and extended his hand. "You've convinced us. We're ready to move forward. Let's make this project happen." Naomi and Julian shook hands with all the investors, maintaining their professional demeanor until they were in the elevator heading back to the lobby. Then Julian let out a whoop of joy. "We did it. $12 million project, and it's ours." Naomi laughed, feeling genuinely excited for the first time in what felt like forever. "We make a good team. The best." Julian grinned at her. "This calls for a celebration. Let me buy you dinner." As business partners celebrating a win, completely professional. Naomi hesitated. She hadn't been on anything resembling a date since Derek. The thought made her stomach clench with anxiety. But this wasn't a date. It was two business partners celebrating a success. That was safe. That was fine. Okay, she said. But somewhere casual. I've had enough of fancy restaurants for a while. They ended up at a small Italian place near Naomi's office. Nothing like the expensive restaurants Derek had always insisted on. This place had checkered tablecloths and homemade bread and a menu handwritten on a chalkboard. Over pasta and wine they talked about the project, about their plans, about their shared vision for sustainable construction. Then the conversation drifted to more personal topics. What made you become an architect? Naomi asked. My grandmother. She grew up in a house my grandfather built with his own hands. Nothing fancy, but it was solid and beautiful and it kept her family safe for 50 years. Julian's expression softened. She used to tell me that buildings are more than just structures. They're where people live their lives, raise their families, build their communities. I wanted to create spaces that would matter to people the way that house mattered to her. That's beautiful. What about you? Why construction? Naomi thought about it. Honestly, I fell into it. I grew up around it because of my father, but I never planned to make it my career. Then some things happened that made me realize I needed to prove something to myself. Taking over the sustainable division was about showing that I was capable of more than people expected. What things? Julian asked gently. Naomi took a sip of wine, deciding how much to share. My ex-fiancé turned out to be a con artist who was stealing from my family's company. He's in federal prison now. The whole experience made me question a lot of things about myself. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. It was. But it also woke me up. Naomi met Julian's eyes. I spent a long time being what other people expected me to be. Nice. Agreeable. Easy to manage. Then I learned that being those things doesn't protect you from getting hurt. So now I'm figuring out who I actually want to be. And who's that? Someone strong. Someone who builds things that matter. Someone who doesn't need anyone else to validate her worth. She paused. Someone who can stand on her own. Julian nodded slowly. That's admirable. Though for what it's worth, being strong doesn't mean being alone. The strongest people I know are the ones who know when to collaborate, when to ask for help, when to trust others. Trust isn't easy for me anymore. Understandable. But Naomi, not everyone is your ex. Some people are genuine. Some partnerships are real. He smiled slightly. Like ours. We're building something good together. We are, Naomi agreed. And she realized with some surprise that she did trust Julian. Not romantically, not yet, maybe not ever. But professionally, as a partner, as a collaborator, yes. She trusted him. That felt like progress. As they left the restaurant, Julian walked Naomi to her car. The night air was cool, the city lights reflecting off glass buildings. Thank you for dinner, Naomi said. And for being a good partner on this project. Thank you for taking a chance on my crazy sustainable building idea. Julian paused, then said carefully, I know you're not looking for anything beyond a professional relationship. I respect that completely. But I want you to know that working with you has been one of the best experiences of my career. You're brilliant and driven and you care about doing things right. That's rare. Naomi felt warmth spread through her chest. That means a lot. If you ever do decide you're ready to trust someone again, I hope you'll consider me. Not as a business partner. As someone who thinks you're pretty amazing. He smiled. But no pressure. I'm happy to keep things professional if that's what you need. He walked away before Naomi could respond, leaving her standing by her car with her heart beating faster than it had in months. Julian liked her. Actually liked her. Not for her family's money or her business connections. Just for her. And the scary part? She might be starting to like him too. The eco-friendly mixed-use development project consumed the next 3 months of Naomi's life. She coordinated between her sustainable materials division, Julian's architectural firm, the construction crews, and the investors. It was complex, challenging work that required her to juggle a dozen moving pieces simultaneously. She loved every minute of it. Julian was on site almost daily, reviewing progress, making adjustments, solving problems. Naomi found herself looking forward to seeing him, to their discussions about the project, to the easy way they worked together. They'd maintained a strictly professional relationship since the night of their dinner. Julian never pushed for more. He was friendly but respectful of the boundaries Naomi had set, which somehow made her notice him more. The way he listened when she talked, really listened. The way he treated every worker on the construction site with respect, from the project manager to the newest laborer. The way his face lit up when a design element came together exactly as he'd envisioned. The way he laughed when things went wrong, finding humor in setbacks instead of anger. He was nothing like Derek. And that scared her almost as much as it intrigued her. 4 months into the project, Naomi's division landed another major contract. A city redevelopment project worth $12 million. It was the biggest contract in the company's history, and it came directly because of their work on Julian's project. The city officials had toured the eco-friendly development and been so impressed that they wanted Thompson's Sustainable Materials division to handle the entire redevelopment. Her father called her into his office the day after the contract was signed. $12 million, he said, shaking his head in amazement. Naomi, do you know what this means? You've taken a division that was losing money and turned it into one of our most profitable units. The board wants to expand your authority. We're talking about rolling sustainable practices across all of Thompson Construction. Naomi sat down, trying to process what he was saying. You want me to oversee sustainability for the entire company? I want you to be Vice President of Sustainable Development. New position. You'd keep running your division, but you'd also have authority to influence company-wide practices. It's a significant promotion, significant responsibility, and it's entirely yours based on what you've achieved. For a moment, Naomi couldn't speak. A year ago, she'd been planning a wedding to a man who'd seen her as nothing more than a means to steal from her family. Now she was being offered a VP position based entirely on her own accomplishments. I accept, she said. That evening, Julian invited her to see the nearly completed development. The sun was setting as they walked through the space. The buildings were taking shape beautifully, clean lines, natural materials, innovative design seamlessly integrated with sustainable technology. It's better than I imagined, Julian said, standing in what would become the central courtyard. The composite materials your team developed, the way they catch the light, it's perfect. Naomi looked around at what they'd built together. I have good news. Thompson Construction just landed a $12 million city redevelopment contract. The city officials specifically requested our sustainable materials because of this project. Julian turned to her, his face breaking into a huge smile. Naomi, that's incredible. This project was a showcase for your division. You should celebrate. We should celebrate. This project is as much yours as mine. Then let's celebrate together. For real this time. Not as business partners. As two people who achieved something amazing and maybe want to spend time together because we actually like each other. Naomi's breath caught. Julian. I know you're not ready. I know you have walls up for good reason. But Naomi, we've been working together for months now. We've built something incredible together. And I can't keep pretending I don't have feelings for you. He stepped closer, his voice gentle. I'm not Derek. I'm not trying to use you or manipulate you. I just think you're extraordinary, and I'd like the chance to know you beyond blueprints and project timelines. Naomi's heart raced. Part of her wanted to say yes immediately. Part of her wanted to run. All of her was terrified. I don't know if I can do this, she said quietly. The last time I trusted someone, he destroyed me. I'm not sure I know how to let someone in again. Then don't let me in all at once. Just give me a chance. One real date. No business talk. Just you and me getting to know each other. If it's terrible, we'll go back to being just colleagues. If it's not, we see where it goes. Naomi looked at Julian, really looked at him. At his open expression, his patient stance, the vulnerability in his eyes as he waited for her answer. Every instinct she'd developed since Derek screamed at her to say no, to protect herself, to not risk being hurt again. But another voice, quieter but growing stronger, whispered that maybe not all men were liars. Maybe not all romance was manipulation. Maybe Julian was exactly who he appeared to be, a good man who liked her for herself. Okay, she heard herself say. One date. But Julian, I need you to understand, I'm still figuring out who I am after everything that happened. I might not be good at this. I might mess it up. Then we'll mess it up together. He smiled. Saturday night? I'll plan something. Trust me? Naomi took a deep breath. I'll try. Saturday night came too quickly. Naomi changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple blue dress and heels. She told herself this was just dinner. Just 2 people getting to know each other. Nothing to panic about. Julian picked her up at 7. He wore slacks and a button-down shirt, and he looked nervous too, which somehow made Naomi feel better. You look beautiful, he said. Thank you. Where are we going? You'll see. He drove them to the waterfront, to a small park Naomi had never visited. He'd set up a picnic, blanket, basket, battery-powered lanterns creating soft light as the sun set over the water. I thought we'd keep it simple, Julian said as they sat down. No fancy restaurants. No pressure. Just us and some good food. The basket contained homemade sandwiches, fruit, cheese, and chocolate. They ate and talked, and for the first time since they'd met, they weren't discussing projects or materials or timelines. They talked about their lives, their families, their dreams. Julian told her about growing up with 5 siblings, about putting himself through architecture school working construction jobs, about the first building he'd ever designed that actually got built. Naomi told him about her childhood, about the pressure of living up to the Thompson name, about her grandmother who'd taught her that being strong didn't mean never being afraid. It meant being afraid and doing things anyway. She sounds like an amazing woman, Julian said. She was. She died when I was 22. I still miss her. Naomi looked out at the water. She would have hated Derek. She had good instincts about people. I wish I'd inherited that. You did. You're just learning to trust those instincts again. Julian shifted closer on the blanket. Can I ask you something? What was the moment you knew Derek was wrong for you? Before you found out about the con? Was there a moment you had doubts? Naomi thought back. Yes. Lots of moments, actually. Times he'd dismiss my opinions. Times he'd talk over me in meetings with my father. Times he'd make decisions about our future without asking what I wanted. I ignored all those red flags because I thought I was being too sensitive, too demanding. I thought that's what compromise looked like in a relationship. That's not compromise. That's someone not valuing you. Julian met her eyes. You deserve someone who sees you as an equal. Someone who respects your opinions and celebrates your successes. Someone who wants to build a life with you, not build a life off you. Is that what you want to do? Build a life with me? Eventually, maybe. If we get there. Julian smiled softly. Right now, I just want to get to know you better. I want to see if this connection we have is real. I want to find out if you laugh at my terrible jokes and if we like the same movies and if we can talk for hours without running out of things to say. I think we already did that last one. Then we're off to a good start. As the night darkened and the stars came out, they moved closer together on the blanket. Julian pointed out constellations. Naomi found herself leaning against his shoulder, feeling relaxed in a way she hadn't felt in over a year. This is nice, she said quietly. It is. Julian's arm came around her shoulders, tentative, giving her room to pull away if she wanted. She didn't want to. She stayed there, tucked against his side, watching the stars and feeling something that might have been hope stirring in her chest. When Julian drove her home, he walked her to her door. They stood in the hallway outside her apartment, both suddenly awkward. I had a really good time tonight, Naomi said. Me too. Can we do it again? Yes. But slowly, okay? I need to go slow. As slow as you need. Julian reached for her hand, holding it gently. Thank you for giving me a chance. I know it wasn't easy. Then, before Naomi could overthink it, she went up on her toes and kissed him. Just a brief, soft kiss that lasted maybe 3 seconds. When she pulled back, Julian was smiling. So, that was nice. Naomi laughed, surprising herself. It was. Good night, Julian. Good night, Naomi. Inside her apartment, Naomi leaned against the closed door and touched her lips where Julian had kissed her back. She felt giddy and nervous and excited and terrified all at once. She was dating again. Actually dating. And it felt nothing like it had with Derek. It felt real and genuine and scary in the best way. Maybe she could trust again after all. Maybe she could open her heart without losing herself. Maybe happiness wasn't something that had been taken from her forever. Maybe she could have both, professional success and personal joy. Strength and vulnerability. Independence and partnership. For the first time in a year, Naomi felt like her future was full of possibilities instead of just survival. 1 year after hiding under that hotel bed, Naomi stood in front of a mirror in a boardroom at Thompson Construction headquarters, adjusting her blazer. Today was the company-wide meeting where her father would announce her promotion to Vice President of Sustainable Development. She looked different than she had a year ago. Her hair was shorter, cut in a sleek bob that was easier to manage with her busy schedule. Her expression was more confident. She carried herself with an authority she'd earned through months of hard work and results. Her phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Good luck today. Not that you need it. You're going to be amazing. Dinner tonight to celebrate? Naomi smiled and texted back. Yes. 7 p.m.? Perfect. Love you. They'd been dating for 5 months now. Julian had said I love you for the first time 2 weeks ago, during a weekend they'd spent at his family's cabin upstate. Naomi had panicked at first, old fears rushing back. But then she'd looked at Julian, patient, Genuine Julian who'd never pushed her, never demanded more than she could give, never made her feel less than equal, and she'd said it back. Because she did love him. Somehow, despite her walls and her fears and her determination never to need anyone again, Julian had become essential to her life. Not because she couldn't function without him, but because her life was better with him in it. The boardroom door opened. Her father stuck his head in. Ready? Ready. The meeting room was packed. Employees from all of Thompson Construction's divisions filled the seats and lined the walls. Naomi took her place at the front of the room next to her father. Robert Thompson addressed the crowd. Thank you all for coming. I called this meeting to announce some significant changes to our company structure. As many of you know, our Sustainable Materials division has become one of our most profitable and innovative units over the past year. Under the leadership of Naomi Thompson, that division has secured contracts totaling over $20 million and has positioned Thompson Construction as an industry leader in green building. He paused, letting that sink in. Because of these achievements, I'm creating a new executive position. Vice President of Sustainable Development. This position will oversee not just our Sustainable Materials division, but will also guide company-wide implementation of green building practices across all our projects. I'm proud to announce that Naomi Thompson will be filling this role effective immediately. Applause filled the room. Naomi stood, acknowledging it with a nod and a smile. Her team from the Sustainable Materials division was cheering the loudest. After the formalities, people approached to congratulate her. Trevor from her sales team. Dr. Price from R&D. Kenji from production. The CFO who'd initially been skeptical of her expansion plans. Even Gerald, the former division head she'd replaced, came up to shake her hand. I was wrong about you, Gerald said simply. I thought you were just the boss's daughter getting a cushy position. You proved me very wrong. Congratulations. Thank you. That means a lot. Later that day, Naomi was in her new office, larger, on the executive floor with a view of the city, when her assistant knocked. Package for you. No return address. The package was a large envelope. Inside was a magazine, Construction and Development Quarterly. Naomi's photo was on the cover with the headline, New Generation of Leaders, How Naomi Thompson is Revolutionizing Sustainable Construction. There was a sticky note attached in her father's handwriting, Proud of you. Your grandmother would be too. Naomi sat at her desk and read the article. It detailed her transformation of the Sustainable Materials division, the innovative composite materials her team had developed, the major contracts they'd secured. It quoted industry experts calling her work groundbreaking and essential for the future of construction. There was one paragraph near the end that made her pause. When asked what drives her passion for sustainable development, Thompson's answer is personal. I want to build things that last. Things that make a positive impact. I spent too long being someone I thought others wanted me to be. Now I'm focused on being someone I'm proud to be. That means doing work that matters. She remembered giving that quote to the reporter. It was true. Every word. Her phone rang. An unknown number. Naomi almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Naomi Thompson. Miss Thompson, this is Attorney Harold Briggs. I represented Derek Montgomery. Naomi's hand tightened on the phone. She hadn't heard Derek's name in months. Hadn't thought about him in weeks. What do you want? I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Montgomery. He's asked me to reach out to you. I have nothing to say to him. He's not asking you to talk to him. He wanted me to pass along a message. He wanted you to know that he's taken full responsibility for his actions. He's participating in financial literacy programs in prison, helping other inmates understand the consequences of white-collar crime. And he wanted you to know that he's sorry. Naomi was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Tell Mr. Montgomery that I don't need his apology. What he did to me made me stronger. I've built a life and a career that I'm proud of. His actions don't define me anymore. Tell him I hope he uses his time in prison to become a better person. And tell him this is the last communication I'll accept from him or anyone on his behalf. I'll convey your message. Miss Thompson, for what it's worth, I read the article about you in Construction and Development Quarterly. You've accomplished remarkable things. He threw away something real when he betrayed you. He threw away the chance to know the real me. That's his loss, not mine. After she hung up, Naomi sat in her office feeling nothing. No anger. No pain. No satisfaction. Derek was just a person she used to know. A chapter of her life that was closed. She truly moved on. That evening, Julian took her to dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. They toasted her promotion with champagne. To Vice President Thompson, Julian said, clinking his glass against hers. To your brilliance, your determination, and your ability to transform everything you touch into success. To us, Naomi countered. Because I couldn't have done any of this without your support. You absolutely could have. But I'm honored you let me be part of your journey. They talked about the future. Julian's firm had been commissioned to design a sustainable housing development in partnership with Thompson Construction. They'd be working together again, combining their expertise to create something meaningful. I have something to tell you, Julian said as dessert arrived. I was contacted by a firm in Seattle. They offered me a partnership. It's a significant opportunity. Naomi's heart dropped. Seattle? That's across the country. I turned it down. What? Why? Because my life is here. My business is here. You're here. Julian reached across the table and took her hand. Naomi, I'm not going anywhere. I'm all in with you. With us. I want to build a future together. Tears pricked Naomi's eyes. Good tears. Happy tears. I love you. I love you too. Julian smiled. Now eat your dessert before it melts. As they left the restaurant, Julian pulled Naomi close. They stood on the rooftop looking out at the city lights. See that building? Naomi pointed to a structure under construction in the distance. That's the city redevelopment project. Our sustainable materials are being used throughout. In 10 years, that building will still be standing, still serving the community, built to last because we did it right. That's your legacy, Julian said. Buildings that last. Impact that matters. Our legacy, Naomi corrected. We're building this together. She thought about where she'd been a year ago. Hiding under a bed, listening to the man she'd planned to marry reveal his plan to destroy her. She'd been devastated, heartbroken, lost. Now she was standing on a rooftop with a man who truly loved her, looking at a city where her work was making a real difference, knowing that she'd built a career she was proud of through her own strength and skill. Derek had tried to use her. Instead, she'd used his betrayal as fuel to become someone stronger. Someone better. Someone who didn't need anyone else to validate her worth but who chose to share her life with someone who made it better. What are you thinking about? Julian asked. How far I've come. How different my life is now compared to a year ago. Better? Naomi smiled. So much better. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And for the first time in her entire life she meant it. Chapter 10, Triumph. 6 months later, Naomi stood at a podium in a hotel ballroom, addressing a room full of business leaders, politicians, and community activists. The annual Women in Business Gala was honoring her with their Emerging Leader Award. Thank you for this recognition, Naomi said, looking out at the crowd. But I want to be clear. I'm standing here because of the team I work with. The researchers who innovate. The salespeople who believe in our mission. The production workers who turn concepts into reality. Leadership isn't about individual achievement. It's about empowering others to succeed. She saw Julian in the front row, beaming with pride. Her parents sat beside him, her father wiping his eyes. Even her brother Isaiah had flown in from college for the event. A year and a half ago, I was in a very different place in my life. I trusted the wrong person. I'd lost faith in my judgment. I questioned whether I was capable of building anything meaningful on my own. Naomi paused, finding her courage. Tonight, I want to speak to anyone who's experienced betrayal, who's been manipulated or lied to, who's questioned their worth because someone they trusted hurt them. The room was silent, everyone listening. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by what you do next. You have the power to rebuild, to become stronger, to create a life that's better than anything you imagined before the betrayal. Her voice strengthened. Don't let someone else's actions convince you that you're weak or foolish. You're a survivor. And survivors don't just endure, they triumph. The applause was thunderous. People stood. Naomi saw women in the audience wiping tears. After the ceremony, during the reception, Naomi was approached by a young woman in her 20s. Miss Thompson, I just wanted to thank you for your speech. I went through something similar. My ex-boyfriend stole from me, ruined my credit, and I've been trying to rebuild for 2 years. Hearing you talk about triumph instead of just survival, it gave me hope. Naomi took the woman's hand. What's your name? Caitlin Rodriguez. Caitlin, you're already on the path to triumph. You're here at this event, networking and building your future. That's not just survival. That's success. Naomi pulled out a business card. Email me. I'm starting a nonprofit to help women rebuild after financial abuse. I could use someone with your experience to help develop the programs. Caitlin's eyes widened. Really? I don't have a lot of formal experience in business. You have lived experience. That's more valuable than any degree. Email me. We'll talk. The nonprofit had been Julian's idea, actually. 3 months ago, over dinner, he'd suggested that Naomi's story could help others. They'd spent weeks developing the concept. A program providing job training in construction trades for women escaping abusive situations, plus financial literacy classes and legal support for recovering from fraud. Thompson Construction had agreed to sponsor the nonprofit. Naomi's Sustainable Materials Division would provide job placements for graduates of the training program. Julian's architectural firm had offered to donate design services for the program's headquarters. They'd named it Rebuild Foundation. It would launch in 6 months. Later that night, after the gala ended, Julian and Naomi walked along the waterfront. The same waterfront where they'd had their first real date a year ago. You were incredible tonight, Julian said, his arm around her shoulders. That speech was powerful. I meant every word. Naomi leaned into him. Thank you for encouraging me to start the nonprofit. Feels right. Like I'm turning something painful into something that can help others. That's who you are. You take challenges and transform them into opportunities. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Julian stopped, turning to face her. Naomi, I have something I want to ask you. He pulled a small box from his jacket pocket. Naomi's breath caught. Before you panic, Julian said quickly, I want you to know there's no pressure. No expectations. I'm not Derek. This isn't a manipulation or a transaction. This is me telling you that I love you more than I thought I could love anyone. You're my partner in every sense of the word. You're my best friend, my colleague, my inspiration. And I want to spend the rest of my life building things with you. Buildings, businesses, a family, a future. He opened the box, revealing a simple emerald-cut diamond on a platinum band. Naomi Thompson, will you marry me? Naomi looked at the ring, then at Julian's face. A year and a half ago, she'd been hours away from marrying a man who'd never loved her. She'd thought that ring, that proposal, that relationship was what love looked like. She'd been so wrong. This was love. This moment, with a man who'd never rushed her, never pressured her, never tried to change her. A man who celebrated her successes, supported her dreams, and treated her as an equal partner in everything. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, I'll marry you. Julian slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss. When they broke apart, they were both laughing and crying. I love you, Naomi said. I love you so much. I love you too. And Naomi? I promise you, this marriage will be a partnership. Equal. Honest. Built on respect and trust. You'll never have to hide under any beds to find out the truth about me. Naomi laughed through her tears. That's a pretty low bar. Then I promise to exceed it every single day. 6 months later, Naomi married Julian in a small ceremony at the waterfront park where they'd had their first date. 50 guests, just family and close friends. No 300-person spectacle. No elaborate wedding dress that cost thousands of dollars. Just a simple white dress, a man who genuinely loved her, and people who supported their happiness. Her father walked her down the aisle. As they approached Julian, Robert Thompson whispered, This one's different. This one deserves you. I know, Dad. The ceremony was short and meaningful. Julian's vows talked about building a life together with the same care and attention they brought to their professional work. With strong foundations, innovative design, and sustainable practices that would last a lifetime. Naomi's vows talked about trust and partnership and choosing to be vulnerable with someone who'd proven he'd protect that vulnerability. When they kissed as husband and wife, Naomi felt complete in a way she'd never felt with Derek. This was right. This was real. This was the life she'd built from the ashes of betrayal. The reception was held in the courtyard of the sustainable mixed-use development they'd built together. The building stood as a testament to what they could accomplish when they worked as a team. During the reception, Naomi stood on the steps of the main building and looked around at the scene. Her family laughing with Julian's family. Her team from Thompson Construction mingling with Julian's architectural firm colleagues. The women from the first graduating class of Rebuild Foundation were there too, several of them now working in good jobs they'd earned through hard work and determination. Trevor approached with a champagne glass. Boss, Naomi, I just wanted to say congratulations. And thank you. For believing in the team. For turning the division around. For proving that doing good business and doing good in the world can be the same thing. Thank you, Trevor. For taking a chance on me when I was unproven. for sticking with the division when things were hard. After Trevor walked away, Zara appeared at Naomi's side. Zara, who'd been there for the cancelled wedding, who'd helped her escape that hotel, who'd supported her through the investigation and the trial and the rebuilding. "Remember when I found you in that honeymoon suite, your dress torn, your makeup ruined, your heart shattered?" Zara said quietly. "I remember. Look at you now. Married to a man who actually deserves you. Running a division that's changing the industry. Starting a nonprofit that's going to help so many women. You didn't just survive, Naomi. You thrived." Naomi hugged her best friend. "I couldn't have done it without you." "You could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." That night, after the reception ended, Naomi and Julian stood on the roof of the building they'd created together. The city spread out before them, lights twinkling in the darkness. "What are you thinking?" Julian asked, holding her close. "About how far I've come. About the woman I was 2 years ago who hid under a bed to surprise her fiancé. About how that moment of devastation led to all of this." She gestured at the cityscape. "Derek tried to destroy me. Instead, he pushed me to discover who I really was. Who I could be. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd actually married him? If you hadn't hidden under that bed?" Naomi considered it. "I think eventually I would have found out. Maybe not that day. Maybe months or years later. But the truth always comes out. And maybe finding out later would have been worse. I might have had children with him. I might have been so entangled that escape was harder. So in a weird way, hiding under that bed saved your life." "In a weird way, yes." Naomi turned to face Julian. "But I also saved myself. I was the one who chose to investigate instead of just confronting him. I was the one who worked with the FBI. I was the one who took over the division and turned it around. Derek's betrayal opened my eyes. But I'm the one who walked through the door to a better life. That's my wife. Taking credit for her own success." Julian smiled. "As you should." 3 years after that terrible wedding day, Naomi stood in a different hotel. A brand new sustainable hotel built entirely with Thompson construction materials. She was the keynote speaker at a national conference on green building. She talked about innovation in sustainable construction. About the importance of investing in new technologies. About creating buildings that served both present needs and future sustainability. But at the end of her speech, she told a story. 3 years ago, I had my heart broken in the worst way. The man I planned to marry turned out to be a criminal who targeted me for my family's money. I could have let that betrayal define me. I could have become cynical and closed off. I could have decided that trusting anyone was too dangerous." She paused, seeing her reflection in the glass walls of the conference center. Strong. Professional. Confident. Instead, I chose to let that betrayal reveal my strength. I took over a failing division and transformed it. I found a partner who treats me as an equal. I started a nonprofit helping other women rebuild after similar betrayals. I built a career and a life that I'm genuinely proud of. I tell you this not to impress you but to remind you, and myself, that we are not defined by what happens to us. We're defined by how we respond. We're defined by what we build from the ruins. We're defined by our refusal to let betrayal be the end of our story." She looked out at the audience. "So whatever you're facing, professional challenges, personal setbacks, moments that make you question everything, remember that you have the power to transform pain into purpose. To build something better than what you lost. To triumph not despite the difficulties, but because of what they taught you about your own strength." The standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes. Afterward, dozens of women approached her. Women who'd faced their own betrayals. Women who'd been told they weren't enough, weren't capable, weren't strong enough to succeed. Women who'd been held back and were fighting to move forward. Naomi talked to each one. Exchanged contact information. Offered encouragement and resources. By the time the conference ended, she'd recruited 5 new mentors for Rebuild Foundation and connected with potential partners for expanding the program to other cities. That night, in her hotel room, Naomi called Julian. He was in Chicago working on a project, but they talked every night when they were apart. "How was the speech?" he asked. "Good. Really good. I told the story about Derek." "How did that feel?" "Powerful. Like I've completely reclaimed that narrative. It's not about what he did to me anymore. It's about what I built afterward." Naomi smiled. "I ran into someone from the FBI today. Agent Freeman. She was at the conference for security. She told me that Derek comes up for parole in 2 years. He'll probably be denied. How do you feel about that?" "Honestly, I don't feel much of anything. He's just a person I used to know. A person who made terrible choices and is paying the consequences. I hope prison has changed him. I hope he comes out a better person. But it doesn't affect me either way. My life has nothing to do with him anymore. That's growth. That's me understanding that his actions don't define my worth. That they never did. Naomi looked at her wedding ring, the one Julian had given her 2 years ago. I'm happy, Julian. Really, genuinely happy. With my work, with our marriage, with the life we're building. That's my revenge, being happier without him than I ever was with him. That's not revenge. That's just living well. Then I'm living very well indeed. 5 years after hiding under that bed, Naomi Thompson Crawford stood on a stage accepting the National Women in Business Leadership Award. Her sustainable materials division had grown into a 50-person operation generating $40 million annually. Thompson Construction had become an industry leader in green building under her guidance as VP of Sustainable Development. Rebuild Foundation had graduated 300 women from its training program. 270 of them were now employed in construction trades, earning good wages, supporting themselves and their families. The program had expanded to 5 cities. Julian's architectural firm had merged with a larger company, making him a partner in one of the most respected sustainable design firms in the country. Their professional collaboration had produced a dozen award-winning projects. Together they bought a house, started talking about having children, built a life that was rich with purpose and love. In her acceptance speech, Naomi didn't talk about Derek at all. That chapter was closed. Instead, she talked about the future, about the buildings they'd create, the women they'd empower, the sustainable practices they'd pioneer. But that night, alone in her hotel room after the ceremony, Naomi allowed herself one moment to think about that woman hiding under the bed 5 years ago. Heartbroken, devastated, lost. If she could talk to that woman now, what would she say? You're going to be okay. More than okay. You're going to be extraordinary. The pain you're feeling right now will fuel the most successful years of your life. You'll build things that matter. You'll help people who need it. You'll find love that's real and true and built on respect. You'll become the woman you were always meant to be. Derek's betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's just the beginning. And your story is going to be amazing. Naomi smiled, closed her eyes, and went to sleep. She had more buildings to design tomorrow. More women to mentor. More life to live. And every single bit of it would be on her own terms, built by her own hands, created through her own strength. That was triumph. That was justice. That was the revenge of living well.